Fuck me, Jesus Christ.
Hello. However, oh shit. Can you intro it?
Yeah.
He has little snippets of the therapist talking.
Yeah.
And, you know, a young black man from Streatham putting that in his album, I think it's just the most, like...
Yeah.
I thought it was groundbreaking
Yeah.
to encourage people to get help.
Hello. So this is a strange one. There's no special guest. It's just me and Mona.
Yes, you are the guest today.
Yeah. So what we thought, initially it was your idea, I think, originally, but I think I kind of latched on and I did think it was a good idea. We get a guest on every week to try and like open up. So this time around, I think we thought it'd only be fair if we kind of opened up a little bit. And I know you had the episode with your mum. So I guess, it's my turn, isn't it?
Your turn to get roasted.
To get roasted, yeah. Just like, fucking pussy. These certain feelings. But we chat quite a bit in like the Samosa chats group with Jaspal as well about just what's taboo. One of the things I guess is for like South Asian people, but particularly just dudes in general, is that we don't show emotions. We have, whether it's love, hate. Hate's the only acceptable emotion to show if you're South Asian.
Yeah.
Hate and maybe love for like butter chicken. those are the only two emotions that are safe to show if you're South Asian and a dude. So we thought we'd talk about sort of that. Jesus Christ, no wonder guests are always like, this is fucking awkward, mate. This is awkward.
Yeah, well, you know, you've gone through some shit recently.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've talked about it, but I guess there's a lot more that we can extend on. And it's, you know, particularly rife in the community that boys don't really open up, not even to their friends.
Friends, family. Like, I always think that the solution, I think any solution in a Punjabi family or like a South Asian family in general is either food or it's either eat or stop eating.
Yeah.
It is those two. Like, it will either be just, it's fine, let's just have some dinner, or drink. Drink's a big one, isn't it? I guess I'm pretty lucky that my family don't really, like, they're not big drinkers. So it's like, not that, but it's like either food or... I feel like there's a cultural shift as well in the South Asian community. I think our parents and their generation, they had emotions and stuff, but they kind of manifested themselves in like not a particularly healthy way.
Yeah.
And this is something we're eager to cover on the podcast anyway, which is like addiction.
Yeah.
Addiction, and we went over domestic abuse and stuff, and I think we mentioned it in a couple of those episodes.
Yeah. Sort of numbing your feelings was the way to go, as opposed to talking about it, because talking about it was just far too awkward.
Yeah, numb them, or try and drown them out with something else until eventually it explodes, and I think in some cases it leads to like things like domestic violence or like alcoholism, drug abuse, things like that. But yeah, so I think it's important to talk, and I think there's a shift in our generation where we kind of acknowledge like, okay, cool, we want to deal with this in a healthy way and make sure it doesn't impact our lives and all that. But whether it really works like that, because we haven't really been given the tools, I don't think, to deal with that kind of thing. So there's like a change now. And like with education around not only mental health, just like self-care. I think in general, I think it's important.
But even though that's, now a big thing in our generation, because it wasn't in our parents, we still kind of keep them very separate. Like, I know you had issues recently where you really didn't mention to your parents at all. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. So I guess we should stop, I guess I should just bite the bullet and just say what these issues were.
Yep. What happened?
I think it was a long build-up. I think there was a lot of stuff that it's like, I know a lot of the creatives that we've had on, we've had those conversations about, which is like creativity and mental illness or mental health issues or whatever, however you want to frame it. But I guess like the bottom line was I just stopped knowing how to cope with certain issues. I think it was with like my day job and like knowing that what I wanted to do was comedy, and it is comedy, but it's not like I'm not there yet to just be able to earn a living from it. And it's weird. Like, I always see life as like quite a dichotomy, which is I have the side of me that wants all these nice things, that wants to be driving, you know, the nicest car and wants to be eating at the nicest places. But then there's the other side of me that's just like, man, I just want to tell jokes. Like, you know, just tell jokes and create stuff.
It's a really hard balance because you're kind of expected as a man in his 20s, you know, who's switched on, to have all these things,
Yes.
to have money in the bank, to be able to go on holiday with the lads and not, you know, and you can only maintain that expectation and that lifestyle by doing the day job.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's not that I don't enjoy those things. It's just that I've got like these two competing priorities. So it got to a point where I was working, and like obviously I won't say where I work and stuff, but my day job's like fairly intense. Like it's not like a walk in the park. Like people would kill to have my desk job and like the company I work for and all that. So it got to the point where some days I was leaving my house at 6:30, and then I wasn't getting back in until 2. And it was like, then I'm up again at anywhere between 5:30 and 6:30.
Yeah,
Again the next day.
As in finishing work, heading straight to your gig.
Yeah, gig or 2, depending on the day. And then it's, you know, the train back home, the commute, which is like door to door, is on a good day, 1:45.
God, that's long.
Yeah, so it just became like a lot of it, a lot of that. So I was feeling like a little bit run down and shit, but it just became that thing of, I don't need like self-care. I've never needed it. You know, I'm fine. I'm chasing a fucking dream.
Yeah.
Maintaining this like great fucking job as well. I was like, I think to most people, I was just living the dream, really. It was like, you know, doing this like cool artsy thing that really kills on Tinder in comedy, but then also being able to buy the first round on a date. Like, so it's like, oh my God, you're so cool.
Yeah.
And inside you're like, no, fam, I haven't slept in 3 days. And that was it. So I ended up taking. So there was, I guess that was one side of it, and then the other side was obviously the breakup. Do
you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I guess I probably should. I think that was like that was like one of the main points of the podcast, wasn't it? I think that's another thing. Asian people, I think in general, because like when I talk to my friends and stuff, like they have the same feedback about certain girls that they've been dating or whatever that have been from the South Asian community, and it is that reluctance or inability to open up and show emotions, even in a fucking relationship. And you're like, wow, that's intense. You know, I mean, you've had a couple of South Asian boyfriends now, like.
I've just had the one.
Just the one? Oh, okay. Is that our guy?
Yeah, you know who you are.
The fucking jazz pal. But it's like, I'm sure that it's like a thing, isn't it?
Just making sure that was recorded.
You're fucking old, isn't it? You're getting the glasses and like,
sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Please continue.
No, it's fine. Yeah, so I think there is just a thing in our community which is like an inability to express emotions. So it's like, even talking about a breakup to me feels fucking weird. Like I said, now I sympathise with our guests where we're just like, okay, open up about everything.
Yeah.
It's like, unless they're like used to it, it's strange. But basically, so yeah, end up going through this breakup, which was like fairly bad. Like first she was living over here, like we met up for a few months. Literally in our like first meet up, all we said was we were like, nah, this would be casual. And then I think we both spoke to each other afterwards, and it was like, yeah, no, on the first date, I ended up calling Ma and being like, fuck. And then she did the same with one of her friends to be like, we fucked up. And then, so she ends up moving back to New York.
After how many months of seeing each other?
3.
Okay.
So it wasn't particularly like long relationship. But I think I you know me fairly well. Like I've never really done the whole relationship thing.
Yeah, I don't think you were expecting it at all.
No, it came out completely the fucking blue.
That's when it happens, isn't it? When you're not expecting.
When
you're not looking, it comes to you.
Ripping out the cliches, I love it.
But ripe example, you know what I mean? You weren't looking for that.
It is, like, literally, I was just, like, happy, like, doing, like, a little bit of comedy, just, like, you know, just on literally every single dating app. And it's, like, fucking comedians are, like, a red flag to a fucking bull.
Yeah.
And, but it just ended up fucking happening, where it just kind of headed that way. And it was a great fucking 3 months, like, even now, like, you know, can't fault anything.
I know.
And we kind of agreed to to not carry on the whole long distance thing, but then we kind of ended up in a long distance relationship anyways, where we were still talking every day, FaceTiming. That like element of like monogamy was still there.
Yeah. So she went back to New York, and then how long did that last?
I think that lasted properly for probably about 3 or 4 months. After that, then we had like a conversation, decided to break it off kind of thing. Went back to like doing what I was doing. And this is the level of like what South Asian dudes like, how we... I like how I've become like a spokesman. I'm sure not all of them do it, but like, I think it is a trend. I even denied like my emotions to myself. Like
I never liked her.
No, it wasn't even that. It was just like, oh, that was a nice like 3 months now. Back on the horse.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah, back
I'm
on the
over
horse. And then I end up booking a trip out to New York. And this is what I mean, like, as in I was lying to myself to the point where I was like, oh, I just want to go out there for comedy, and I've always wanted to go out to New York. Told her the exact same thing. But really, it'd be fucking awkward if she's listening to this, because I haven't even actually admitted this to her yet. But the reason I probably went out there was to kind of see her again. And then, we end up meeting up for dinner, and we just end up getting into this fucking... It's the most intense conversations of my life. Where it was kind of like, are you moving here? Are you moving here? And it just wasn't feasible for either of us to like move. To kind of like be with each other. And then we end up having this fucking conversation over in like one of the best dessert places in fucking New York. And it's just like, it was the saddest dessert of my life. I've never been that sad eating a dessert. Like, it was just like crying into my cannoli. But yeah, so it just like, from there, that was the last time I saw her. We ended up having this fucking teary conversation, like over a phone, where it was just kind of like this, like, what are we doing? Like,
Before you went back home, or once you returned?
Yeah. Before I was still out. I went to New York for like 12 days. I had like comedy gigs booked as well. It was like, oh man, it was so weird. That whole like trip was just so weird to me. It's like, you check my Instagram, I'm like, and this is like the myth of social media. It looks like I had the best fucking time of all time. It was the worst like 12 days of my life.
And you definitely returned a bit broken.
Yeah.
Not even exaggeration.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was fucked, wasn't I? Like, it was. I think what really like hit home was like the fact that, okay, this is going to be the last time I see her. This is the last time, and so far that was the last time I saw her, and the last time I spoke to her was that phone call where we were like, this isn't good for either of us. And she said something that really fucking hit home, and that like I wasn't aware of. Like, I kind of knew, but I wasn't like aware of it. She was like, I can't spend like another 5.5 months crying myself to sleep, knowing that you're like that far away. And I was like, Jesus Christ, like that when somebody tells you that, that's intense. And like, I'd never been in that situation before, so I was like, what do you mean? Oh fuck. I understand what she means now. I get it. But yeah, so I ended up coming back, and I even remember that plane ride home. That plane ride home was fucked up. So it was like, I kind of knew that was like the end of like everything.
Yeah.
And being that this was like my first, even though the time frame was small, I think this was my first like proper relationship.
It was like your first love.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm so cheesy. But
yeah,
it was.
Yeah, you're right. So I'm usually pretty proud of that, being 26 and like, that's your first love, innit? That's fucking emotional damage there. I love that. But I mean,
But you said yourself, you're quite, I don't want to say picky, but it takes a lot for you to...
I think that's what it is, yeah. I think it takes a lot. And I think at the time, because I was like I was like pretty new to comedy as well then. So I was like really like, oh no, like nobody will fit around this, like doing 18-hour days and stuff. I think what really fucking hit home was the sort of innate understanding that we had of each other's like lives, which was like, because you know, she wasn't like a slouch herself. She had like dreams and goals and shit that she was working.
And she kind of had some experience within the entertainment industry as well, right?
Entertainment, creativity, that kind of thing. Yeah. So she kind of understood that, you know, there were going to be times where it's like you get an offer from somewhere like somebody says, "Oh, I've got this open spot," and it's like, you know, that becomes the date,
Yeah.
you know, rather than fucking Nando's. But so I think, yeah, so that was like, it was alien to me. So I had no coping mechanisms at all. I'd never been through anything like that. Didn't really know how to cope. So when I came back, I dove straight back into it. I dove straight back into work. I dove straight back into comedy as like hard and fast as possible. But then after a few weeks of coming back from New York, like people started to pick up even at work, like, "Are you okay? Like, you know, you're making a lot of mistakes, or you know, you're not doing." It got to a point where I wasn't doing work.
You weren't you. Anyway.
Yeah, that's it. I
You'd
wasn't.
like lost your.
Well, you saw it happen.
You were
What
just
was
like,
that?
I remember we went for a drink and you were just like stirring your whatever you were drinking, some sort of just like, and we were like, oh, something needs to be done. But it's such a horrible thing because ultimately, sometimes it is just time. That, But yeah, go on, continue.
I think it was a mix of like several factors.
But it lingered quite a bit, even though you thought on the plane journey home you're upset because you felt like, oh, this is like the line drawn. It wasn't necessarily the line drawn, was it?
Yeah, I came back with like have like this thing where I'm like quite militant in making sure that, you know, I don't become that ex. You know, that's like, you know, that's like, it's been like 3 years, bro. Like, come on, like, leave me alone.
Holding on.
Yeah, like, hey, how's it going? Like, oh, really? Like, you know, like, what the fuck? So I didn't want to be that, and like, I also recognized that it wasn't an easy thing for her because I think it was a mutual thing. Like when we had that conversation in New York, even though we were both like pretending like, oh, we're friends now, like we were still very much in love. And I say that with like confidence. I'm pretty sure it was like mutual. And then, so I recognized it was hard for like both parties, and it was a really fucking strange thing because it was that geography and like just reality, I guess, where if one of you wasn't going to move, it's like, how's the relationship going to like continue?
Yeah, the only thing setting you apart is location
And just, I guess, time as well, and for factors that I won't delve into, like it wasn't feasible for either of us to kind of move. But then, so that kind of made it even harder because like I have literally zero bad feelings towards this person. Like, you know, sometimes you break up with somebody and you're just like, oh, like, fuck them, that was so bad.
But that's
like,
easier to get over.
Yeah, because you have that element of hate, whereas like at this time it was like almost like unconditional, where it was like, oh, I hope she's doing well. Hope she's okay. And then that just made it even more difficult because it was like you couldn't message that person to be like, hey, you good? Because you know that in the long run that's actually a negative thing.
Yeah.
And then obviously, what was it, a few weeks ago, I think, now, I saw like something on social media. Fuck social media, man. It just makes everything so much worse. I saw something on social media that, you know, she's with somebody else now, and it's kind of like, I think that was probably like the final like, okay, like,
that's it.
You need to get rid of this person out of your life.
Yeah.
And it feels like everybody I've spoken to who's like has experience of this, it does feel like it's almost like death, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it's a big loss.
Yeah, because that person's like completely removed from your life.
Yeah, but it's not like they've just gone and you're left with the memories. They're still there. Seeing that photo, I know, was such a kick to the chest. Do you want to talk about how you reacted when you saw the photo of her with someone else?
Oh,
I'm laughing, but it is. I mean, we can look back and laugh now.
Yes. I don't think I've ever said this publicly before. I didn't even write a joke about it.
But people feel this, so please talk about it.
I threw up.
Yep.
I physically threw up. Which, I don't know. I don't even know why I'm fucking embarrassed by it.
No.
Like, I can kick the shit out of like most people. And this was another thing. That I found like real humor in. Like, I'm 6'2", I'm like 18 stones, and somebody who's 5'3" with a big forehead, like, it just had this completely devastating impact on my life.
How do you know she was 5'3"?
Her? Oh, I don't know. She's about 5'3", innit? She definitely wasn't tall.
Oh, I thought you meant the guy she was with.
Oh no! I've got no ill feelings towards him. What's he done
I
wrong?
don't know. I thought that's what you know about.
I feel like that's how I'm supposed to react, isn't it? Like if I was to let toxic masculinity govern my life, I'm supposed to be like, fuck that guy. Ugh.
He's not as good as me.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's yeah, you took a real left turn, didn't it? But I've got I don't know. I've tried to be like really fucking mature, like no 3 a.m. phone calls and all that shit. I've very much taken a less of a Drake approach, more of like a I don't know. I can't think of a fucking alternative. I was gonna say, Drake's the approach where you're like calling her and shit 6 years later, crying on your bathroom floor, like, hey, Marvin's Room's playing in the background. I've tried to take like a more like philosophical approach to this whole thing, but I was going somewhere with this. I threw up, and then there was something else. Okay. So in my head, this is where I was going. I think one of the reasons that I think South Asian people, just in general, we struggle to like articulate emotions, is because we don't invest time into having like a support structure and stuff. So when I went through that breakup and I came back, I legitimately felt like I had nobody to talk to it about. Like my family don't really get involved in my love life unless it's like serious. So I didn't see any point in involving them into that because it wasn't going to come into anything. It wasn't going to develop into anything serious because it was done now, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I didn't even talk to my sister. And me and my sister talk about this stuff quite a bit, but just like I didn't mention it to anybody. Nobody. I think even like my main group of friends, I think we struggle to like articulate ourselves because for like a good couple of years, I don't think we had like an emotional conversation.
Yeah.
There was nothing. Like we'd hang out and stuff, and a great bunch of lads. We'd kick it. We'd go have a lot of fun, but then it was like, okay, see ya. Bye. But no, that's what it was like. You'd meet up. Usually, you'd meet up for the football, some drinks, some food. But then you'd end up going out in the evening, and then the next day, half of the people are gone in the morning.
Yeah.
Like early before you've even woken up, and then the other half you just sit around hungover, and then you leave, and that's like your self-care time, isn't it? But so I came back, felt like I had nobody to talk to. I think me, you, and Jasper spoke about it a few times. But by then, like, it got to the point where I had to take time off work. Like, it just festered like that much, being overworked, going through this shitty thing. I always think it's like 3 or 4 pillars in like your life that are responsible for like your well-being, I guess. It's like you've got your physical health, which touch wood was fine. But then the other factors, which was work / comedy, your love life, and then your social life. So I felt like 3 of those pillars were gone. And it was like, 1 pillar is not enough to like maintain everything. Then it was just like, I wouldn't even say it was a breakdown, really. Maybe if I'm trying to like jazz it up, I could start calling it a breakdown. Make it
nervous
sexy.
Breakdown.
Yeah.
But I think that's it wasn't necessarily a breakdown, but it was a huge change in probably, if we want to get like biological, not that I really know what I'm talking about, but like your chemicals in your brain and your hormones and stuff, that you were just like totally thrown off. It hit you like a bus.
Yeah.
And like you say, you didn't have to cope. And the only way to cope was to kind of at least cut out, sitting at work feeling sad is like the worst.
Yeah, so it's like...
And it wasn't a significant distraction, at all.
Yeah, because obviously, like I stopped like working at work. Like I was actually unable to work. Like I know that sounds a bit dramatic, but that's kind of what it was. Just the build up of all of this shit. I was sat at work and I was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I want to be a comedian. I want to create stuff. And then it was like your love life's a mess. You perceive your social life to be a mess. There's no support network there. Then it's kind of like, well, this is just shit.
Nothing.
Yeah. That's kind of, other than like this like facade of like being like fucking sick. You know, just like, no, that is generally what it is. Just like, like I don't know. I understand it. All I'm saying is I understand how Kanye feels. On a smaller scale, I understand how he felt, but that led me. But I think the good things to come out of this was like that kind of led me to seek like help and just like coping and shit. So I went through the works like mental health scheme, and then they referred me on to like a specialist. Then I ended up at my GP. No, I went GP, then through to a specialist. And I'm not sure. I'm not even sure if this is the right advice, mate. I'm just not.
How? Quick interjection. How was it for you to actually make that appointment and go to the GP?
Oh,
did it feel totally unnatural?
Yeah, it was the hardest.
Because you never ever go to the doctors, right?
Yeah, it was the hardest fucking thing. That was the first time I've been to the doctors in like 8, maybe 9 years since I'd had like my appendix done. And then so it was a huge thing. Even just making that phone call to the mental health line or whatever at work, I was like, geez, like, you know, like in a weird way, like you would I was judging myself. I was like, fuck, man, what are you, like a little pussy? What, you can't like deal with it? Fuck, like, just get on there, just start fucking, innit? I feel like that's how dudes are supposed to deal with a breakup, innit? In like, that's like seen as like the masculine way. I tried that for a bit, like, we're just gonna go out and fucking birds, mate.
No, I know, and I think I remember telling you. And even though it makes no sort of impact in your brain, it goes one ear out the other, being like, you're so great, you know, you should be really grateful for it. You got, you know, great family and great job. Like, obviously focusing on all the positives. But the last thing you do is focus on any sort of positives. You're like, I'm pathetic, this is shit, and I hate my life.
Yeah. And it was like I said, the comedy aspect was like really, and I was doing like, objectively speaking, like, I'm doing all right. Like, you know, I'm a newbie and doing well and like whatever. I'm doing as well as anybody in my position could be expected to do, kind of thing. Really. But it was like you work yourself up into this bit, and it's like you go do a gig somewhere where you've travelled 3.5 hours. It was to 3 people, and you're just like, oh my god.
Good things get any worse.
Yeah. I that was generally a thing. Like I was on this train for like, I was going from East London to back home, which is out further than out west, nearly to Oxford. And I was like, there, and I was just like, geez, like this is fucking awful. And in that gap, that's when we'd normally FaceTime. So it was like, oh, you're just sat there watching like really shitty YouTube. So obviously you're gonna be like, you know, feel shit with that. But so that prompted me to go see these fucking specialists and shit. And like they immediately want. This is something, again, I'm not sure if this is the right advice, right? And I really counsel people to follow whatever your fucking health professional says. But almost immediately they were like, okay, you've been diagnosed with like depression and anxiety. I think it was severe depression and mild anxiety was the diagnosis.
But how in depth did they go before they made that diagnosis?
Well, this is the thing. So it's like, to me, in my eyes, I had a bunch of life factors that were going wrong. I've got no history of mental illness. I wasn't like feeling suicidal or anything. It was literally just feeling sad about a variety of factors. And then one of the first things they did was just offer me antidepressants. And then I said no at that time. And then that was kind of like a wake up call, where it was like, okay, shit, they want me to put on antidepressants. Let's do therapy. And I recommend therapy, I think, and a lot of people have said this to me since I like told them that I went, was that everybody should do it at some point. Like, and it's not just like everybody has this image of it being like this Freudian thing where they sit you on a fucking couch. So tell me about your family life. It's not even really like that, to be honest.
Yeah.
They will literally teach you practical things about how to cope with shit. And one of my things was, okay, you need time off. So they gave me, I think in total I was off for 6 weeks. So it's like, but then even like going back into work,
I
like,
know.
oh man.
I mean, yeah, great that your employer supported you through that time, but when you have to return, it's a whole other thing.
Yeah, so when I returned, I felt borderline shame.
Why?
Like going in, because you'd been off for like 6 weeks.
Did your colleagues know?
They must have known, like, I mean, they're not idiots, innit? Like, so they must have known, like, there was nothing physically
connected
wrong
the
with
dots.
me. Yeah, there was
Yeah.
nothing physically wrong with me. I was like a moody bitch before I left. Like, you know, so they kind of, they must have known at some point. But I think it'd be awkward if they're watching this. If you guys are watching this, let me know on Monday. Yeah, so it was like borderline shame. But then when I started talking to people at work, like to my manager and stuff, I didn't realize like how common it was.
Mm-hmm.
How common it was for people to just be like, I probably spoke to probably about 10 or 15 people when I went back. And almost all of them, if not had experienced something similar, but like had said, actually, I wish I'd done that at X time when I lost someone or whatever. So it was like, yeah, it was a big step, man. It was a big step.
But good for you for talking about it.
Yeah, I still struggle. Like my family still don't know shit. I don't know how they're going to react when they see this.
What would they? What I mean, why don't they wonder why you're at home?
Well, I'm a sneaky little devil moaner.
Do you get ready for work and then go back in the house?
No. So what I did was I told them that I'd got this sick note, but I told them that it was all like a massive ruse and I just wanted time off and like this preserves my holidays. They generally, I went.
Do they
deep
know what the
with
sick
this
note's
lie.
for, though?
Huh?
Do they know what the sick note?
Yeah. My mum flipped out. She was like, "Wow, you're messing around with that." She was like, "That's not something to joke about. Like, what the hell? That's going to go on your record." And I'm like, yeah, my company's so stupid, aren't they?" And then I like go up to my room and cry. but I don't know. It was definitely a fucking weird time. I don't understand serial monogamists. Like, you know, people that just jump from one relationship to another. I don't understand how they do it.
No, I don't. I mean, everyone's different and everyone likes different things. Some people need that and thrive off that, and I personally need time by myself.
Yeah.
And I think you do so much healing in that time.
Mm.
So back to the question: if you did tell your parents what was really going on,
Yeah.
how would they react?
I think they'd freak out firstly, because like that education in the South Asian community around mental health is that I think their first thing would be, "Are you going to kill yourself?"
Yeah, I've been diagnosed with what's it? Major
severe
depression and mild anxiety. Would the prayers just start then and there?
Yeah. Which I think that element's kind of nice, but it's like there would be that whole like overcompensating worry of, "Are you okay? Are you going to kill yourself? Have you cut yourself?" Like that kind of thing.
Would they take all the bits
Yeah,
out your room?
Start hiding the sharps. No, I don't know. It's because throughout this whole thing, I have been kind of like, I can acknowledge that I haven't been myself in my own head, but I think I've been fine like outside. Like it's like maybe I've said like the odd weird thing here, like people having a good time, and I'm like, well, everybody here is just gonna die at some point, aren't they? Oh, you're in a relationship in your 20s, probably not gonna reach your 30s. Sorry, like, you know. So I was like a bit of a moody prick, but I don't know. It took a lot for me to even just admit how much like that I needed help, and then B also how deep my feelings for that particular person ran. And I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Because it was easy at the time to express it between us, but then because I guess I didn't have a lot of relationships with people that were like that. Like I had mates and, you know, I had friends where we'd go deep. A lot of the times it was like we'd run deep about that other person's issues. And like I've always been somebody who's like, I'm good supporting other people through shit, you know, helping them work through it and all that. Mainly because I've never really needed to. Oh, excuse me, those samosas are really coming up. Fucking hell, samosas and 8 cups of tea, Jesus. Wasn't me crying, guys, I promise. Which try and edit that out. So yeah, I think that was difficult. I'm umming and ahhing a lot because a lot of this shit is pretty new to me as well, guys. So, you know, this isn't like a rehearsed thing.
Yeah. No, you
It's
didn't.
love, man. Like, it's just fucking awful, isn't it?
And how do you feel now? So you returned from New York, what, 3 months ago, 2 months ago?
3. It's nearly
Okay.
coming up to 3.
How is the like pain now? Sorry to use the word pain.
Fuck. It's getting better, isn't it? Like, time fucking heals and all that.
And how are you coping with everything? I think you've come to the realization that you need to change things.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of like changes that I need to make, just like in my own life, like my job. And it's weird, is it? Fuck it, I've already told them. Like, even if they watch it, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
they're generally, and this is one thing I would say, like, considering like for like I work for like a quote unquote corporation, they have actually been fucking fantastic through the whole thing, just on like a human level. But it's like it's shitty things. Like even in my job, I think it's like the more active I stay and the more like I work towards stuff, the better it is. So it's like the more like for example, like you said this when we were chatting about this podcast. Anyways, you were like the podcast has helped you. Like has been like a major part of like your recovery process. I think so. I think it's just like creating in general helps. Writing jokes. I remember like when I came back from New York, about 3 or 4 days later, I had like this shitty open mic, and I had this like material I wanted to try out. But then I was like, actually, let me actually go on. I'm just going to talk about this. I'm just going to talk about the whole fucking breakup from start to finish. I had like 10 or 15 minutes or something over in Reading, and then that's what I did. And for some reason, it was fucking hilarious. And I've never been able to recapture it. And I didn't even take a video that day, so I can't actually remember what I was talking about. I was going down really fucking well. So that like comedy was part of like my coping mechanism as well, I think. But the podcast kind of helps. And like one of the things that I realized I probably need to change is like work, because obviously I was still at the same place when she was around, and so it's like random fucking little bits remind you of that person, then you're like down in the dumps about it. Because even though it's like it's like that cliche that those that are closest to you like hurt you the most kind of thing. And it's like probably some of life's like biggest highs were shared. And then probably that phone call, I still remember that fucking phone call in New York. That was genuinely one of the worst periods of my life.
I know.
Like hour or two, whatever it was. That was just atrocious. And then you share that with that person as well. And it's almost like you're bonded forever, innit? It's fucked up. Just don't ever fall into relationships. Just stay on those dating apps. Be that creepy 33-year-old dude that's DMing chicks dick pics. That's my advice. Just make sure that stays your love life. That and Pornhub. Because porn stars don't hurt you.
You will find love again, I'm sure of it.
I feel like that's the title of the podcast there. Porn stars don't hurt you.
You don't want to develop some sort of problem.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to develop the hand of death. If you don't know what the hand of death is, Google it and avoid it.
But yeah, I think that, I remember saying to you, like, as cliche as it is, there are plenty more fish in the sea. And, now you know what you like and what you want and what makes you tick. You'll be able to find that. But it's again, really, really difficult because it feels like the most impossible task. And because it happened when you weren't looking for it, it's like the weirdest conundrum.
Yeah, I keep harking back to like there's so many factors in like this particular situation that I think would just make it even harder to like get over properly. The main one being like how like we bonded almost instantly.
Yeah.
Whereas it was like, like you just hit it off with somebody.
I know.
I was used to doing the whole like Tinder thing where it's like you almost have on Tinder you almost have like a what's that script that like cold callers use? Like like you have your like little script and you go off that on the
standard
first
conversation starters.
Whereas like even in the first couple of dates it was just like everything was quite a unique experience. Yeah, so it was like there was that, but then there was also the way that it kind of ended. It was just like they're there, and then they're not there. Then they're kind of there through like technology and shit.
And then they're there with their new boyfriend.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mona. Just trying to make a deep philosophical point. You were just like, remember that picture? Hey, jeez. Yeah, no, it is true. Like, and then it's just like you have no ill will towards this person. And it's like you even understand them like trying to move on because you're trying to do the same thing. Just so happened that they were working on a different timeline than you were.
Yeah.
And it was like one of the things that she said, which I thought was like quite poetic. She was like, "I started this process back in like May, whereas I hadn't started until like September."
As in the getting over process.
The getting over process where you like rationalise in your head and shit, whereas I'd probably still carried that through till post New York. And it was like even that, like I didn't realise there was a getting over process. Like what the fuck?
When you went to New York and you were one of the reasons, like you said, was to see it. What were you expecting out of that? That you'd get back together and she'd be like, "I'm moving to London."
No, because I was like lying to myself. Like I look back on it now in hindsight, I'm very much like, oh, okay, so that was the reason there. That was the reason that you did like 12 days. It was like you get like a good solid couple of weeks to just like hang out, kick it together kind of thing. But when I was going out there, I had planned on. Like I said, I fully was in denial. Like I was like, "Nah, we're over it. We're friends. Blah blah blah. Like it'd be really nice to catch up and see this person." And then I remember I was sat down in the fucking restaurant, and there was this like air of awkward, like nervousness almost, because she called me to be like, "Oh, I'm running like 10 minutes late," and like you could hear there was this like tension almost, and it was like. So I think that was the first time I twigged because I was like, oh, okay. Like I didn't think it was gonna be awkward or anything, but I was like, okay, there's something there deep. Whereas if it's your friend, you send them like a WhatsApp to be like, oh, 10 minutes late, be there in a sec. Whatever. There was this like phone call and there was this like nervous tension. And then when she came into the restaurant that I was like sat at, I saw her and I was like, oh fuck. It was like this fucking waiter was like talking to me about beer, like being English. Okay, I was like, excuse me, mate, do you mind giving me a minute? It was just like, and he was like, yeah. And then he walked off. And we kind of said hi, and it was like that whole thing of literally almost instantly realizing, like, oh shit, like I'm still in love with you, kind of thing. And I don't mean to like project like feelings and shit, but I feel like I'm like a realist. I'm pretty sure it was like mutual.
Yeah.
I think we even spoke about it afterwards.
Yeah.
And it was like a kind of a mutual thing. But over now.
It is indeed, I'm afraid. But I'm glad you're doing well. And like you said, this whole thing of us doing this podcast, we talked about it for months.
Yeah, for a while.
For ages. And it was only really a conversation when you were sad and in that down phase when you'd return from New York, you'd send a letter.
Oh,
sorry to remind you of that.
Fucking letter.
Yeah, you sent her a letter.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay, fucking. We're getting all the fucking cringy demons out now, aren't we? So I did send her a letter. It was like so I got into therapy, and I think one of the things that they said was that they were like, "Oh, you like it feels like you've got a lot of stuff that's been like kind of left unsaid." And they were like, "I think that's like one of the main blockers from you like actually trying to move on." So I wrote out this letter that just like, and I think I do struggle to. I think I struggle to articulate myself in conversations sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's like you have that face to face, and then you'll tell somebody you love them and all that, but it's like I don't know. You need something like more.
Yeah.
And I think one of the So I think one of the.
Are you crying? What?
No, I was like thinking.
Okay.
You were like really concerned. You were like, "Whoa, what did I do?" No, so I think one of the other factors in this whole thing that I probably haven't actually mentioned was that I never like asked her to like move back. So I know she was like debating it when she first left. she was considering it and like really considering it for her own benefits, I guess, like, you know, career. She really loved being out here and all that.
Yeah.
But I never weighed in on that because in my own head, it was like, a decision that's that big needs to be her own.
Yeah.
Rather than mine. And I don't think I conveyed that properly.
Yeah.
To her, to be like, look, that was my reasoning. It wasn't that I didn't want you out here. So I had that like little bugbear in my head, innit? So I sent her this letter and then just told her, like, you know, if there was anything she wanted to discuss further, she could get back in touch.
Did she?
Nope.
Ouch.
I don't know.
How long was the letter? Just out of curiosity.
Just fucking really just making this
It was a
really
novel,
difficult,
wasn't it?
Mona. This is the last podcast you'll ever be on.
No.
It was a couple of pages. It wasn't like it wasn't War and Peace.
Yeah.
But,
No, but that's good. That's good advice, I think, from your
yes.
professional to get that out. Because even though she didn't reply, I remember you saying it was really cathartic to just write it out. Not talk on the phone, have your time to write it. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I think, like, if anything, it's like anything that, fucking hell, how many anythings were in there? It's like anything, I guess, where you come out of it with, like, little learning points about how to, like, move forward and shit. And I genuinely am glad for this whole, like, situation to have occurred, so I could take some time away and actually, like, pay attention to, like, coping strategies, I guess. Coping strategies, just being a little bit more resilient and, like, self-care, I guess, which is, like, a big buzzword. Because, like I said, when I go back to work, I'm still doing 18-hour days sometimes. You know.
Saturdays we do this.
Saturdays we do this. Really, like, it's Sundays. And Sundays, you know, like tomorrow I'm over in Aylesbury or wherever the fuck. So it's like, what days do you actually really get? So it's like, even just to emphasize like certain techniques that you can do, like, you know, like taking 5 minutes out. Like in the morning, every morning now, I take 5 minutes out, I sit on the end of my bed and have a cup of tea. Just like sort of think about the day and shit, you know.
That's
so it's like, so even stuff like that. And getting back into the gym, I think was fucking massive. Like just being able to work out, get the endorphins going, even just feel a little bit better off, you know, in your own skin. I think that helps. Cooking, just whip up a little storm in the kitchen, you feel better. But that's me.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. You know, it's like a continuous journey, isn't it? Slowly, you will feel better.
Yeah.
I don't think it ever really comes to like a line where like I'm great, like I'm 100%. It will never be.
I think like two people really fucking helped in like mental health, and one was like fucking Dave. You know, Dave, the psychodrama.
So yeah, that album. I wanted to talk to you about this actually. It covers so many topics that we've talked about. Well, not just the mental health thing and the male expectation, but also like domestic abuse.
Oh, the actual album. You wanted to talk about the album?
Oh shit. Well,
yeah, let's do it. Yeah. So I love that fucking album.
Yeah.
That album was insane. I think it's one of my favorite albums. And I think it really like marries up the two ideas of like toxic masculinity coming through from a place of like being insecure in your own self. And then it manifesting in like all of these like weird behaviors like that, like domestic abuse and like violence and shit. And so I felt that as well. Like I really calmed down as a person from being like in my late teens to early 20s, like being quite, I wouldn't say I was a hothead because I don't want to make it sound like I'm like, yeah, I was like real. Like really, I really did think I was like fucking Billy Big Bollocks. I did, but then like, I'd managed to like, you know, work myself off of that and be like, well, hold on, like easy, Keith, like, what are you doing? You know, you're a real fucking bellend. But then I felt that creeping in as well. Like I had like an incident of road rage that we won't go into. Yeah. Where it was like, you know, I was like, this isn't good behaviors. Like, just
was this when you were at your low point?
Yeah, this was probably like a few days after like New York, and I was like, jeez. So it's like albums like that, and like, who's the other person? Oh, Danny Rose, the footballer, and Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, the boxer. And it's like that really like And I think anybody, especially dudes, any dudes like struggling to cope or whatever, the earlier you kind of catch it, the less serious it is.
Yeah.
So I never got to a point where I was like suicidal or like really fucking, you don't like, I don't care what happens to me. I never got to that point.
Yeah.
Because I think I recognised it fairly early on.
Yeah. And I think that's the key thing, is being able to recognise, not denying how you feel. And being like, right, something needs to change, or I need to get help. And that's why I love Dave's album, because he has little snippets of the therapist talking.
Yeah.
And, you know, a young black man from Streatham putting that in his album, I think it's just the most, like...
Yeah.
I thought it was groundbreaking.
Yeah.
To encourage people to get help. Definitely.
And I really... one of my dream guests would be Tyson Fury.
Just get him on.
Tyson. We're making a play for you, big man. I would love to get him on because like he comes from like a similar community, like the traveller community, where it's like it's not accepted. Like mental health's not really a thing. There's no understanding of it. And like, I remember him talking about it in one of these interviews, and I was like, "Fuck, the South Asian community is the exact same. The way you deal with it is, you know, you go out with the lads, you have a couple of drinks, you know." You borderline harass a couple of chicks, you know, and then that's it. You go
move
home.
on, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. There's no emotions until, you know, 15 years down the line, you're married to somebody from the Bend. Like, you know, you're still thinking about that fucking ex, and then you eventually end up cheating on your wife.
Yeah.
Get a divorce.
Trying to get that same feeling.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I think it's best to just like, it is like going to the gym.
Yeah.
Like working on your mind and like your mental health is like going to the gym.
Yeah.
The more you do it, the easier it becomes, and B, the more effective it is. So, we'll have to listen back to this and figure out whether it's whether it's interesting or if it's just me rambling.
Yeah.
I'm like conscious. I'm like tired. I'm like out of breath from talking.
Well, good.
How awkward would it be if she was to watch this? Imagine that.
The thing is, she'll be talking, as women do, talking about it to all her multiple girlfriends. There will be more than one. Whereas, you know,
I talk it to a podcast.
Yeah. As in, at least you're talking about it.
Yeah, and if you struggle to talk about it with any friends or anything, just feel free to just start up a podcast.
Or just give us a call and you can talk.
Yeah, if you're South Asian, you can hop on here. Well, I feel like that's a good note to end on, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm tired.
Oh, but you're doing better.
Yes, I think. Getting back to good old Tinder Preet.
Good.
That'll do.
Cool.